do we as believers relate with the authority that we are under in the governments of our land? Hi, my name is Mary. One aspect of authority that can be a bit dicey to relate with as believers is the authority we are under in the form of the governments that rule the day in the nations that we are part of. And so every nation, you're a citizen of a certain country, there's a government in place that makes rules and enforces those rules. How do we relate with that government in a way that is honorable, in a way that bears witness to the reality of Christ within us? There are times we found in scripture and situations that came up in scripture. For instance, the issue of taxation, where Jesus was asked, should we pay taxes? Who do we pay taxes to? Because you're talking of a God who's higher and greater than all else. Here we have Caesar who's demanding all forms of taxation from us. What do we do? And there's a response Jesus gave that was a very wise one. Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Give to God what belongs to God. And yes, taxation is one way and shape and form in which we honor authority. And there are times when people will start to reason their way out of some of these things, where they'll say, well, the government is corrupt, well, the leader is corrupt, well, this thing isn't running well, I'm not getting the services that I need, and we can go on and on and on and on. But that doesn't change the fact that there is a premise for honor that we need to have as believers for all forms of authority, including those that are not necessarily aligned to Christ. And we see this pattern throughout the Bible as a way in which God is able to use believers to actually change the trajectory of nations. Think about someone like Joseph, who had every reason to have no honor for the laws of the day. He had been a subject, a slave, because of those very laws. He was imprisoned wrongly because of certain laws that were in place. He was dragged through the mud for such an extended period of his life. Yet when it came time to be presented before Pharaoh, he didn't start to raise all the issues and how he's been maligned and all the things that have happened to him. He had an understanding of the opportunity that he had been presented with by God. He had an understanding that there was an assignment that was above and beyond the slights that he had endured in his lifetime in that land. And so even as believers, we have to look at our relationship with the government of our day differently, because if we want to be used by God to change the trajectory of our nations, it's going to take more than just prayer. Prayer is important, yes, but we have to do more than just prayer. We have to have relationships with government officials. We have to understand how different government offices work. We can't be talking about what needs to change if we are not even willing to sit down at the same table as the people who make the decisions that would enable that change to occur. We have to start thinking more strategically about why God has made us citizens of a particular land, why God has allowed us to be under certain leaders, under certain governments, and what opportunities God has afforded us that may come about looking like crisis, that may come about looking like corruption. But when you look at it from God's perspective, it's actually an opportunity for believers to bear witness to the leaders of the day. And we see this time and time again from Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar, Nehemiah and the king he served. You can go throughout scripture and see how these men, and in some cases even women like Esther, were used by God. And one common denominator among them all is that they had an honor for the leaders. They had an honor for the government, notwithstanding the fact that the leaders and the governments were not necessarily aligned to the will and the heart and mind of God at the time. But because of the honor they showed and they displayed, they got an entrance into these leaders' hearts that allowed them to speak the counsels of God to them and completely change the trajectory of the nations they were in. We can do the same, and we have an opportunity to do so. But are we willing to lay down our hardline stances? Are we willing to do more than just hide in our prayer closets? Are we willing to sit at the table with the people who God has called into the gate of government and start having the honorable conversations, the difficult conversations, the wise conversations that need to be had? Thank you for joining me today. I will see you in the next episode.